Hey, this is a hermit, and today I think I want to talk about homeschooling and money. The reason for this is because I've been receiving a lot of questions lately about people looking to find out how much it's going to cost to homeschool, or looking for completely free homeschool resources, or just trying to figure out where to spend their money on homeschooling. In fact, I have an interview tomorrow, and they've sent me a bunch of questions, and they're all, it's all based on, finances and homeschooling. When my husband came up with the idea of homeschooling, he pictured it costing a lot of money. He thought that we would just hire teachers to come into our home to teach our kids. And at best, to lower the cost, we could get together with other families who are homeschooling and split the cost of teachers to come into our home to homeschool the kids. At the time he came up with this idea, I wasn't behind homeschooling at all. So that didn't happen. Plus, they were still infants. I might have been pregnant with one of them. When homeschooling actually happened, the one thing I knew for sure is that I wanted a relationship with my kids, first and foremost. And so hiring a teacher to come into my home didn't make any sense to me. So, we spent the first year pretty much bunkered down, me observing them very closely. I'm just an observer by nature. I watch people. I try to gauge what makes them comfortable, what makes them uncomfortable. And since I'm so good at that, and I'm so observant and so in-tuned, I can get very in-tuned with people. It was just natural for me to do that for my kids. So that first year cost very little. I think I had a handful of books and my kids, and eventually I got a subscription to a website that cost about $40 a month for the two kids, and that was it. And for beginner homeschoolers, that's pretty much all homeschooling should really cost is, a subscription, an online subscription maybe that has educational videos or, math programs, intuitive math programs that moves forward as they learn, some kind of programming. But then I'm a geek. I'm a computer geek, so I'm all for the computer stuff. But, something fun and educational, and then, some books and a lot of reading. The first year of homeschooling, especially if you're homeschooling lower grades, should be just that laid back, and it really shouldn't cost a thing. And once you've got a good gauge on who your kids are, what they want to and need to learn, then you can start investing. So that's kind of what we did the first year of homeschooling. As we move forward, I knew another thing. I knew that as an artist that I couldn't pass that knowledge of art on to my kids, because art was something that was a part of me, and it wasn't something that I could explain out. And so I would become very frustrated when we would try to do art, because I'd be like, what do you mean you can't do it? You just do it. You just draw the lines and, you make the thing on the paper. And so I knew I couldn't share my love of art with my kids without them hating it. And I knew that I was not interested in history. Actually, I love history now, but at the point I was not. And so it just so happened that there was a program in town that integrated the arts and history. And so I put my kids in that program. And my son just graduated from that program, and my daughter graduates from it next year. So, yeah, we stayed with it. And that's where the bulk of our money went, was into this program. In the early years, I think it was like, very little money, maybe $100 a month or so, or $120 a month or so for both kids. And then when they got into the high school programs, it got more expensive because, it was a conservatory program, so they were hiring, the best teachers, and they were doing drama club and private piano and voice and all of that. That's where we chose to put the bulk of our money in homeschooling, and it was costly. Yeah, it was costly. Maybe $3,000 a year each, which is still a ton less than what the public schools are paying to educate our children. And, I have a friend whose daughter is into basketball, and so she spends a few thousand a year there, and you just, you find whatever extracurricular your child needs, whether they be full extracurriculars or part extracurricular, part curriculum, and you invest in whatever it is that catches your child's heart. That's what I feel about it. Now, there are a lot less programs in the area that I could have used. It would have meant a further drive or more parental involvement. But, this is the one I chose. So it doesn't have to cost $3,000 a child a year for extracurriculars. You just have to find the group that fits your kid and the group that fits your pocketbook and go with that. Besides paying for those extracurriculars, my kids did taekwondo and fencing, and my daughter did a little track, and they swam up until they were bigger than the YMCA swim teacher, and they didn't want to join the swim team, so swimming stopped at middle school. And those things were moderate cost, like 50 to 100 a month, depending on what it was. So we mostly spent money on getting them out of the house and, having them join communities where kids were interested in what they were interested in, and they could, explore and grow in those areas. Academically, I've spent very, very, very little over the years. I found a lot of free online websites, and I've actually have a website where I've compiled all the free stuff that we've used over the years, and I will link to it in this video. So academics, for the most part, didn't cost a lot. In the middle school years, I had them actually take classes outside of the house because we kind of started to, butt heads a little bit, whereas, they were getting to a point where they were starting to question everything I said, and it was becoming less homeschool time, more like debate time. And I decided that I wanted to be mom and not evil, mean teacher for a little while. So kind of the middle school years, I had them take classes with the same group that they were doing their arts with. And then when they got to high school age and were more willing to learn and wanted a little bit more freedom to explore deeper, because classes can be limiting no matter how good they are, whether they're with a homeschool group or whatever. They could be limiting because there's material and there's a lot of people and everyone has to get through the same stuff. So when they got more open to learning again, they went back to homeschooling my way, which is to use lots of online resources and to work through that material and to explore and to go off on tangents, if need be. So while some years the academics cost I think it was $1,800 each, most years it was a big goose egg, or at most $200 for maybe like a software for Spanish or math curriculum, but none of these are necessary. There's just so much cool stuff online that you just won't believe it. I like to say, my analogy is, I had babies, and there were pretty cool stuff on the market, and I bought the cool stuff, and then like 3 or 4 years later, when I'm kind of done having babies, and I'm looking at these like high chairs that practically feed the kids, and I'm looking at these cool strollers and these absolutely fantastic souped up car seats and trendy diaper packs, and I'm like, where was this stuff when I was having babies? Well, it's kind of the same way with homeschooling materials. I'm like, makes me want to go find a kid somewhere and just bring them home and homeschool them, because there's so much cool stuff on the net. So just to sum it up, yes, I've spent a good amount of money. No, it's not necessary. But here's the deal. The more money you spend in homeschooling, the less prep time you need to take. The less money you spend in homeschooling, the more one-on-one time you have to take, because you're paying for convenience. And another note, if you're doing like free public school at home, which they call homeschooling, but it's free public school at home, you do have like very little prep time, and you don't necessarily have to do all the one-on-one, and it's free, but the cost is frustration and a lot of desk time for the kid, a lot more desk time than the kid needs. So yeah, you can spend a lot of money, or you can spend a lot of time, or you can meet somewhere in the middle. I recommend you just looking at your budget and saying, this is how much money I have to homeschool with. Where am I going to put it? In retrospect, after homeschooling all these years, I would say extracurriculars and math. Unless your kid is a math whiz. Extracurriculars and math. And when I say math, I say software and or tutors. Because once they get off track with math, it's really hard to get them back on. So that's my talk on homeschooling and money. I hope I helped you out. If you have a question, please leave it in the comments, and I will do my best to answer it. Thanks.